Uh, I have a difficult job, as you have, we all have today and tomorrow, to define architecture today. This is what Lewis told me. You have to define architecture. That is an impossible job. 50 years ago, if you had asked me the question, what is architecture? At that time, I was very able to tell you, to give you a very simple answer. Clear, semplice, limpio. Architecture is the art of understanding people. It's the art of understanding need. It's the art to answer to pure force of necessities. Unfortunately, things are not that easy. Frank Albini was a great man. He was a craftsman. He was a great architect, but he was also a great poet. And I started to understand that architecture is art. Frankly, I'm a bit lost. If you ask me today what is architecture, I'm lost. I was able to answer you 50 years ago, maybe 40 years ago. Now I'm a bit more in trouble. But I'm happy to be in trouble because this is architecture. Architecture is art, but it's an art, a frontier of art. You know, the truth is that in my normal day, like I guess your normal day, at 9 o'clock I go to the office and I'm a builder. At about 10 o'clock I start to become a sociologist or anthropologist. 11 o'clock maybe a bit poet, and then back to be a builder by lunchtime. And you know, this is actually what happened. That is not easy to define because it's something like that, and at the same time it's every one of those things. And it's getting mixed. It's not one after the other, but together. That's why it's so difficult. I can see many, many young people. And this is why our profession is so complicated. It's so complex because it's not just one thing. It's all of those things, but with equal intensity. It's not one more important than the other. You have to be a poet. You have to be a humanist. You have to be a builder. All those things together. This is talking about mass for MENOS. It's about taking away weight. For me, I said before, for the first 10 years of my work, probably a bit less than that, for me it was clear. Architecture was the art of making building, light building. I don't know for what good reason maybe, but making light building was my passion. And this was Beaubourg in Paris. That was a great adventure with Richard Rogers. We were both very young guy, bad boys. I was 33, Richard was a bit more, 36, something like that. And this was designed by Peter Rice. Peter Rice was one of the bad boys there. Peter Rice was, the late Peter Rice, unfortunately, was a great engineer. And this is what we call the Gerberet. Actually, this is a factory. And you can see they look almost like big animals. And the art of making buildings is still there. The art of making pieces, making building piece by piece. And this is a picture of a Centre Pompidou that we still call Beaubourg. In the middle of Paris, it was a kind of rebellion. It was really, people have been thinking about glorification of high technology, but that's totally false. It's not that. The real spirit of this building was to avoid intimidation. If you talk about culture, and you have to define culture, it's very good, and especially in the 71. If you have to go back to 40 years ago, when museums were very, very dusty and quite boring places. And so this idea to open the building to the city, to create a place for people, was a fundamental thing. It was a place for people. Making the piazza was part of the story. It was a mix between utopia, probably quite innocent utopia. Still, the building works very well. It's still there and works very well. But it was a kind of rebellion to the usual way to see cultural institution. Certainly, it is a place for people. Well, that's me making little, no, I'm joking, it's not me, but it was part of the story, you know, the idea that the piazza became a place for people, not necessarily cultivated people. The selection of the slides is not really very intelligent, but it's done more to feel the complexity of our profession.